Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, like I mean, one I had to make you get Skype here, and then it doesn't work. So it's like, oh man, I feel so bad.
Oh no, it's okay. I had no clue what I was doing, so I had to have my girlfriend help me out a little bit. And then when I tried to call you the first time, it was only like a voice call, and I could barely hear it because my phone speaker's so bad. So then tried to download it on my iPad, and that's not working. Thank God though, because it only had 10%. So we would have had some troubles there as well.
Yeah. Well, I think because you know what, it actually came to my actual phone, so it says unknown. I'm like, okay, this might be him, and I'm like, hello, but I don't know. I was a little I don't know. I was kind of doubting it because I've had all these people, random people calling me from like Alabama and all these places in the
Oh yeah,
States. And it's like this like call and it's just like a scam basically. So, but
yeah.
yeah,
No, I've
anyway.
had that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've had that. I had a couple calls from. So I'm from Exeter, and I'm originally from Clinton, which is like half hour north of here, and then a little beyond that, it's a little town of Goderich where my my nana lives. And I've been getting calls from there, and I'd miss them all the time because I'd like either be doing my workout or stuff, and then I try to call them back, and it wouldn't even ring, it just like kind of click out of it, or it just ring and wouldn't even give me an answering machine option. So I was kind of freaked out about that too.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It drives me nuts. I'll get them like 2 or 3 times a day, and there's nothing I can do about it. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so how are you doing with this quarantine thing? How are you keeping busy?
I'm doing good. I can't really work right now because I'm a detailer slash lot boy at a car dealership. So I've
Yeah.
just kind of been filling my time with working out. So I usually wake up around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then kind of eat breakfast. I've started to go for runs a bit in the morning before I like do anything, just kind of clear my head. And then after that, I'll come home and depending on my girlfriend's schedule, because she's works at a nursing home, so she's either night shift or like early in the morning or like kind of afternoon shift. Depending on when she works is kind of when I do my workout slash yoga with her. And then I do kind of like my goalie specific like ball routine and just like stuff like that, like mobility and all that. So usually I just try to correspond it with her schedule.
Right on. You were telling me that like you go for runs and stuff. So does that really have an impact on you being a goalie? Like obviously because like you're not skating so much as the other guys on the ice, but do you have to just do like a lot of cardio just to keep up with like when you're moving the net, or how does that work?
I usually do it just for the cardio aspect of it because I find even like just kind of I've been on the ice like once at the little facility my buddy works at, and I was on the ice once for after like 2 months of not being on the ice, and I was kind of dead. So I more or less just use it for like the cardio aspect of it because it doesn't really have any benefits like for goaltending besides that, because you just kind of your legs are straight. If anything, it just kind of more or less tightens you up afterwards. So I always make sure that I loosen up beforehand just so that I'm not tight afterwards.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, so how do you feel about the quarantine and with the hockey season being cut so short? I mean, you guys were like first place, I think you guys were first place, second
Yeah.
place, kind of on and off. But how do you feel about, you know, you guys were I think we all know that you're probably going to be the team that was going to win the cup or the championship. I mean, between you and more than likely Leamington.
Yeah.
So like how does that feel, the fact that it got cut so short?
Well, it's kind of I'd say like bittersweet because at the trade deadline I kind of got sent back to my hometown team in Exeter here.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, so how it worked was we had an overage guy, or I guess it was me and this other guy from Calgary, and we're both 2000s. So he had two 19-year-olds, and then Brock Byer, he was playing in the BCHL. He ended up coming back to the Nats and being like kind of the number one guy. So I went down to the Hawks here for like the last 6, 7 games of the season, and then we jumped right into playoffs. And the funniest thing was, after our first round, it was when I came back to Exeter here. they're the goalie that the other 2000 goalie, he ended up quitting the team, so I ended up going back up to the Nats there.
Oh,
So how that worked out was I was just going back and forth between the Nats and like the extra Hawks here, and we were actually in the going to our finals of our division here in Exeter, and then I was supposed to dress, I think, the next game for the Nationals too, and then next thing you know, like arenas are getting closed down, league or seasons are canceled. So I had a chance of winning 2 championships basically with two like top powerhouse teams.
oh, right on.
Yeah.
When you get like when you were sent down to the other team, obviously with goalie, you get your design on your helmets and with your pads. So how does that work? Do they give you just another helmet to wear when you're with the Hawks, or?
Well, with me, I could have like I have 2 helmets. I have a white or a black one, and then I have a painted one. But I just chose to stick with my NAS one just because it was so cool. But
Yeah.
they offered, like, they said I could change up my equipment if I wanted to, but I didn't really know what was going to happen for next season, so I didn't know if I was going to be back up with the Nationals or not. But as our second round of playoffs, I got a lot of hecklers and the fans, just how I had blue equipment and my Nats helmet, and everyone else has like matching colors to their team. So I took a little bit of flack from the away team fans for that.
Oh, right on, right on. Yeah, like I always wonder how that worked because obviously I'm like I do like I do the social media and pictures for the Maroons.
Yeah.
So when I've gone to the games, like there'll be guys that will like back up or will be like the backup for that night just in case if a goalie got hurt or whatever. And normally you'll see their pads; they have different colors from like other teams that they get called up from. So yeah, I was just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, no, a lot of guys like there's this wrap or pad wrap. It's like a leather material with like it's kind of like a sticker, and a lot of guys I find choose to do that. But since the back of my pads were like all blue, I thought it would look a little silly with a little bit of yellow on the front and then the rest being blue. So I just kept it all blue.
Oh, right on. That's okay. And I mean, knowing that, then they know, okay, well, this guy's not like full time on the team, so they know that you're coming back to just fill in and help out.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, so what did you think about like what do you think has made the London Nationals such a successful team the last 4 or 5 years? And do you have any pressure as a goalie playing for the organization?
I'd say the thing that's made them most successful is probably Pat Powers. Like he's a great hockey mind. He knows a lot about the game. He really focuses on like trying to make you better as a player, and the whole coaching staff does. But I find just what he knows what he's looking for, and it's not really, you're not like always guaranteed a spot there, but at the same time, it's like he just wants you to work as hard as you can, and I feel like that's what's made them really successful because he pushes them in ways that most other coaches can't. And I find like if you're winning games, then there's not that much pressure. Like at the start of the season, I think I let 1 goal against like 3 or 4 games, and then next thing you know, we come and play our first home game, and I get pulled because we're playing against St. Mary's, and then after that, I kind of felt a little bit of pressure, but I just think it's most of the pressure just comes from like their past accomplishments. Like they won their division 5 years in a row,
Yeah.
Southern Cup champions a couple of years, I'm pretty sure. So I just find the most pressure just comes from like the past successes and what you're kind of brought in there to do per se.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like coaching and I think ownership as well does play a big factor. I mean, you could have a good group of skilled guys that are, should be winning every year, and then they just can't pull together because of whether that just be the plays that the coaches are making, or it's really hard to say in the Go JHL league because I've seen it years. Like I've been watching the boys playing for probably the last 4 or 5 years since I started working for the organization that I do, and so I'll take my clients to go see the games, and that's kind of how I got back into watching hockey. And I've seen years where there's a certain team that really seems to really be dominant, and you have other teams that just seem to always be kind of like the last place teams. But it's really weird this year where like you guys were pretty much in first place, and then Leamington, of course, and then St. Mary's being third place when they've always kind of been at the back end. So yeah, it was really interesting this year, and we really I think with Chatham they really tried to push for that fourth place spot, but it just seemed like it was really tried so hard to get past LaSalle. It just wasn't working. But um, yeah, I mean, just I think every team has that couple of years where they're very dominant. I mean, if you look, and like I said, I am kind of being a little bit biased here, but if you look at Chatham back in like the early 2000s, like I think for like 4 or 5 years they were just like they were the I think they were the champs, like yeah, about 4 or 5 years in a row. And then you look, and then it might have been another team the last couple of years after that. And now, in the last 4 or 5 years, it's been you guys. So, have you guys ever felt like always had that mindset like, oh, we're probably gonna play Leamington in the finals, or do you just try not to look past other teams?
For me personally, like I don't try to take teams like too lightly. Like I think my first home game with St. Mary's, I kind of even the rest of the guys, I kind of took them a little bit lightly. But I think to win a championship, you can't really take any team lightly. But saying that, I think most of the guys know that it's more or less going to be Lundy and Leamington in the finals, just because like of their past accomplishments. Both teams have sending a lot of the guys to like much higher levels with like the Nats, like having the feeder system basically to the Knights there. Like this year we had Logan Mayu, 16-year-old Knights draft picked up there with us, and he was kind of back and forth with the Knights. I just think just because the close knit of the OHL teams kind of brings a lot of success for them.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have had a lot of your organization's had a lot of success with the players. Like I recently saw that number 61. I will never say his last.
Oh yeah,
Max
Vinogradov.
Vinogradov. Yeah, I mean, like I remember seeing him. I think when it was his first year with London, and he was even his first year being a rookie. He was pretty freaking good, and yeah, he's really yeah, like to have that kind of accomplishment. I think that really does boost the morale through the team, and it's good for the organization. I think it's good for the rest of the guys on the team for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's been there. I think it was like 5 years since he was 16. I think all 5 years, if not only four, he's won the league and like I think been to the Southern Cup Finals like 2 or maybe 3 times in his career there. So yeah, having guys like him and Cal Davis, the overagers this year, they really helped a lot. To be honest, like kind of just calming you down because they've been there before with Cal being like up and down with I think he was drafted by Niagara and like playing up in the Golden Horseshoe Conference because he's from I believe Peterborough. So then him coming back down to the Nats from I think it was Caledonia the year before, I think that really helped them a lot too, just because the veteran presence they had really calmed the group down. Because I think we had, I believe, you can only have like 9 overage roster spots, so we had a lot of young guys and like a lot of new guys coming in, so they really helped guide you to like what the team has done in the past too. So I just feel like they were really a guiding force for that team this year.
Right on. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And yeah, you always have to have the veterans lead the team for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But how was the process moving from the Lucian Irish?
Oh
That's
yeah,
how you say
yeah,
the team to the
Irish,
Nationals.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of it was kind of hard to say because when I was playing with Lucan the year before, I think they were like last place, and then when I got in there, I think they got new coaching staff and like kind of started changing things up. So it was a little bit different going in there to start with too. But I find the jump from midget to like junior C, which where I was playing before, really wasn't that big of a difference. But when I came to the Nationals, I noticed a big difference because playing with the Nationals, they have a lot more structure. Like teams have systems, like they're not just run and gun like you do at junior C. And I came from having like 45, 50 shots average to game in Lucan to coming up and playing like maybe I think one time I had like 13, 14 shots all game. So I feel like the only real adjustment I had like wasn't even wasn't this like shot speed or anything. That was more or less just kind of being focused throughout the game when you don't have that much action that like you used to have before.
Mm-hmm. Right. How do you feel? I mean, obviously, like we got Walkarius from your team. How do you feel about him leaving? Because I know there's a couple picture of you guys, and you seem like you're really tight.
Yeah, I loved Wall. He was probably one of my favorite guys. Like, whenever you came in the room, he was always so talkative and like upbeat. Even when guys were like kind of like being down and all that, like he was such a funny guy. And just being on the ice with him, he was just like his attitude was so contagious that you just couldn't help but laugh and be happy whenever you were around him. He's a really great guy. I still talk to him to this day too, and we kind of like chat back and forth just about like stuff that's going on in like the league and like where we're playing next year. Like I asked him where he's playing next year because I saw that Linker was or that they brought in a new guy and Linker was supposed to be getting shipped out. So I didn't know if he was leaving or not. He said the only reason or way he'd leave is if like an OJHL team offered him a spot or something like that.
Yeah. He kind of mentioned me about looking at other teams and kind of seeing what they had to offer, but he's pretty sure he's coming back to the Maroons, and I think it would be good to see him come back. He's got another year or two that he could play, and that's kind of, I think that's what we need is a goalie, a consistency of having goalies for our team, because it seems like the last few years we've always had new goalies all the time. And it would be nice. It feel more secure if we had a goalie that we could have for a couple of years that we know that and Wally's been really really good and Linker's been really good for us. So it's unfortunate that more than likely that Linker is going to be gone. But as long as at least we can keep Wally, that would be nice. So hopefully we can keep him for next season.
Yeah, I believe he'll probably be the number one guy next year, and I think when he gets that role, like he's going to be able to run with it no problem.
Oh, I think so too. I think he's had a bit of a taste of having that start for a couple good stretches. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the table for the guys. So, if we're talking about coming back next season, are you returning to the Nationals or no?
No, I found out I think like a few days ago that they're bringing in Max Beckford and I think his name is Cameron Smith. They're both drafted by the Knights and I think they're both 17-year-olds. So right now I'm kind of just working on like I've been talking to Pat there and he said he's going to help me out however he can with like trying to get me moved because I rather like finish my year out or finish my junior career in junior B and see what happens there because my goalie coach Bill Dark, and he's the goalie coach for the Nats. He's also goalie coach for Western, so I'm trying to like bump up my marks and get in there because he said there's a third spot available. If not this year, then like the next year coming up. So I've just kind of been looking at teams like I know I've been in contact with Hamilton and then been in contact with a couple other teams so far, but nothing's really set in stone.
Okay. Well, hopefully, we can see what happens there. Like what are your future plans? Like
Um,
for life, I guess.
my goal is to probably like any other guy like to play pro hockey, but to be
Right.
honest, I've reached out to Brock Byer. He started his own goalie coaching company there. I think it's Goal Line Training, and he emailed or texted me back and said he'd love to have me because he's based out of Stratford and I live in Exeter, so it's probably about say like 35 maybe 40 minutes difference there, so he thought like we're going to talk about it in a couple of weeks, just kind of get everything like settled in and all that because nothing again there is really set in stone with this whole COVID thing going on. So he just kind of wants to expand it, which I'm 100% on board with. I feel like his game plan with it all is just phenomenal. I think with the way he runs it, it's going to be a big like in the matter of no time.
Oh, okay. Do you have any favorite and not so favorite moments of the season?
I'd probably say not like my not so favorite moment was probably I kind of hit like a little skid there and kind of was like inconsistency. But I think probably my favorite moment was either at the start of the season when I had like one goal against like 3 or 4 games, like I said, or even I know this probably sounds weird, but being sent down at the trade deadline kind of not opened my eyes, but kind of like gave me a reality check. Because I was kind of struggling with my mental health and all that, and I was kind of struggling with like alcohol and substance abuse and all that. So I feel like that kind of really opened my eyes and just gave me more better aspect of like what hockey's all about. Like if you're not going to be at your top level all the time, then you're not going to stick at the top rank. So I feel like being sent down probably one of my best and defining moments of the season, even though like I did get sent down to a lower league, that I didn't really take it as a slight either. Kind of took that opportunity and ran with it because I believe in the playoffs, like before this season, I didn't have like any shutouts or like any like low scoring games in junior C, and then I came out in our playoffs, and I believe first game of the playoffs was against my old team Lucan, and we shut them out. I think it was like 1-0, 2-0. And then I went on to like have an unreal playoff run with, I think, most goals I allowed was, I believe, like 3 or 4 when we got outshot like 65 to like 30 at one point. So I feel like being sent down was probably my best moment, kind of a blessing in disguise.
Right. Well, no, and I totally respect that you acknowledge yourself and acknowledge that there's things that you had to take care of. And I think some people tend to miss that. Some people tend to just not adjust to those things. And but it's good that you did what you need to do. And it's good that like I said, you realize what what you need to change and what you need to do to help yourself, which is good. Um, is there anything that you don't like as a goalie when you're on the ice? Like, do you prefer? Do you not like the break? Like, do you not like breakaways or like penalty shots or like block shots? What's your?
I say, like, as much as like I love my defensemen, like when they block shots, but sometimes I don't like when they block like or try to block everything, because like for me, trying to get in the game and playing the best I can is about feel. So I like to feel the puck, and like there's some play or sometimes when you're so grateful that your defenseman blocked a shot, but there's other time you can you're basically just in the way, man. Like there's not really anything I could have done. Like sometimes I'd be screamed by my own defense because they're trying to block a shot, and it either just tips off them and goes in because I either never saw it or I got it like last minute and kind of whiff or kind of ticked off me and went in. So I find guys trying to block shots when they really don't need to. Like if I have a point shot, like I'd rather just kind of see that all the way in more than like you guys, like more than the guys trying to block it. But I'd say that, and kind of when guys are coming in the wing, like off the wing and kind of on angle, I find I hate those just because like it's so hard to find out where your net is sometimes. Like you can be over too far one way and like leaving too much net, or you could be doing the exact same thing and they pick your short side. So I find those two things are probably the things I don't like the most.
Right. No, I can understand that. Do you is there a team that you really enjoy playing against and a team that you didn't enjoy playing against?
Yeah, I'd probably say when I played with the Nats, I'd say the best team I liked playing against was probably, I think it was Kamoka. Like I only played them like 1 or 2 times, but I found like I always got the best from like my best game out of them because like they kind of represented what I was about. Like they're a gritty, hardworking team and do whatever it takes to win. So I find I had to dig in and be on my best game just because I always knew they were going to be crashing and stuff like that. But I find my least favorite team was actually when I got sent down. We played Mount Bridges and we played them in the finals, and I find like their fans, like they have like one of the oldest and smallest rinks, but like their fans are just so on top of you with where their seating is. And they were the always ones that cheered me the most about how I have all my Nats gear and blue pads and all that. So I think that's the team I hate playing the most, to be honest.
Right. Well, I'm sure you know that the Chatham fans are no stranger to
Oh yeah.
ripping on the other team for sure. I know that a couple of guys from the Maroons that I was doing a podcast, but they said like they just love how their fans would just get into it. And I can remember we were playing when we played LaSalle in the playoffs. Yeah, like it just got so like the tension on the ice was so high, and the fans would just get into it with some of the guys from LaSalle. Like I think the guy Johnson, I think from
Yeah,
LaSalle,
yeah,
like
yeah. Oh,
he
yeah, I
just
had a tough time with him too.
yeah, and I remember someone was yelling at something at him, and he's like yelling back, and the refs like tell him to, yeah, shut up, like go back to the bench, and uh, and yeah, Johnson was, I know he was one that really everyone got into, and I think it was this other kid who was, I think they called up, and he played a couple of games, and he just like I think he wasn't used to playing in that kind of atmosphere, so he just got really. Um, a lot of players got under his skin really bad too.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I found Chatham and Sarnia, like I didn't ever like I was always on the bench when I played in Chatham, and like sitting there listening to some of the fans, like I believe it was Wally's first game, like what he said. So he's getting chirped left and right, and we were sitting beside each other in the dressing room. He comes off like every period, and after the game, we're talking about it. And he's like, yeah, like I was just kind of trying to make friends with them. They all kept yelling at me and all this stuff, and I was just dying. And then this one time in Sarnia, I think I got put in both games. Like I was on the bench for both games and ended up getting put in. I'm sitting there listening because the benches you have to like go down a little stairway to get up to the benches in Sarnia. And like the fans are like literally right on you, and you're hearing them yell the stupidest stuff. Like it didn't even make sense half the stuff they were saying, and like guys that are on the bench and turn around and start yelling at them, and our coaches would have to get all us under control. And I'm just sitting there laughing because I have no skin in the game right now. Like I was just loving listening to all of it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I remember watching the game. It was Chatham in London, and they were playing in your barn, and I remember on the broadcast. So they're chatting during the game, and I think it was the 10-6 game.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I remember that game.
And I'm not sure. I think you might have been in net that game. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was because I got a little tongue lashing because I let in too many goals that game.
Well, I mean, to be honest, but at the same time, if you look at Chatham, I mean, we let in 10 goals, so you shouldn't feel that terrible. But yeah, well, what was I gonna say? Yeah, but during that game on the broadcast, you can hear the two guys chatting, and they said, well, they're chatting about how in Chatham and I love how they bring it up. They're like, well, in Chatham, you got to hear the fans there, and the fans here are so quiet. You go in Chatham, and you hear these 40, 50-year-olds yelling at 17-year-old kids, and like you gotta wonder what's going through their head. And I'm like
Yeah,
listening. I'm like, are you serious? You really had to bring it up on chatting? Like so biased, but
yeah. Well, yeah, like when you go and play in Chatham, I think my first time, like I've heard stories about the old barn. Like I never played there before or anything. So I was just hearing stories, and you get there, it's packed. Like I think it was like 800, 900 people in there.
yeah,
And then no offense to London or anything, you go in there and the arena is so big, and like sometimes it looks so empty because there's like maybe 100, two or like 300 fans in there, and like it makes a big difference. Like to be honest, like when you're playing with like 800 fans and like they're all screaming, yelling at you, it kind of gets you pumped up because you're like, especially when you're the home team, like you got all these fans behind you. But when you're playing against it, it kind of gets in your head. So to be honest, like yeah, they can bash you all you want, but at the same time, you're getting a mental edge for your own team in that aspect.
yeah. I know it's I don't know like as much for me like because I did the pictures for the guys, so I sometimes I remember I went over. I was by the penalty box, and I don't. It was what was that? I think it was Kamoka, and there's a little slit through the glass, and I said something like to the guy. He hit someone from behind, and he didn't get kicked out of the game or anything. And he's in the box, and he's like, blah, 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 like, oh, that's bullshit call. I didn't hit him, and I go and I said, yeah, but you hit him. You hit him. He's and he tries to stick his stick through the thing. I'm like, you keep doing that, I'm gonna take your freaking stick. It's like.
Yeah, steal it.
But yeah, no, it's fun getting on the other team's skin. It's all fun. It's this isn't at least you're not having like a Ty Domi moment where you guys
Yeah.
spraying water on the people or anything like that. So
Yeah, next thing you know, guys are falling in the penalty box. Everyone's coming in, trying to break it up.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it where it was actually during the playoffs this year. Yeah, it was this year, and where I had to sit with some of my clients. We sat kind of like we're sitting here, and the penalty boxes are like over here, and you can hear like Chatham and LaSalle just going at it. Like there's probably six LaSalle. Like it got so bad that you had about 6 or 7 LaSalle guys in one box, 4 or 5 guys from Chatham in the other box, and they're just going carrying on, and you can hear like and you can see like the one kid that's working the box. He's just sitting there like,
Yeah.
excuse me, but
Sometimes that's the best spot. Like you can hear everything that's going on. And you're just kind of laughing at yourself, like, what the heck are you talking about?
yeah, exactly. He's like this kid I've been talking to just during the game. So because he gets a lot of access of like what's going on with the penalties, and he's
Yeah.
told me like there's times where he says the kids from Kamoka are just hilarious. Like he's had one kid got put in the penalty box. So the kid's sitting there for like 4 or 5 minutes, and he's like he whips out like a granola bar of his shorts. He's like, "Hey, you want a granola bar?" He's like, "What the hell?" He's like 3 or 4 granola bars. He's like just munching down on it, and he's like, "Well, to be honest with you, I was hungry, so I took a penalty so I could eat." And
That's
it's like you just
hilarious.
gotta wonder, like these kids are just funny.
Oh
But
yeah, as much as it's bad to say, I've done it before too. Like you grab, I don't know if this is when I was with the Nats or got sent down, but we had like a box of granola bars. I think it was when I was with the Nats. I grabbed like a handful of them, just kind of put them in my glove, and I'm sitting there, and I have to have my mask on. So every like 5-10 seconds, I'd just be like lifting it up and put it in my mouth because I was like so hungry on the bench. One time I actually got our mascot Lou. I got him to bring me popcorn one time.
well, if you're gonna watch a game, you might as well get your popcorn ready.
Exactly. Like I'm here for the show. Like I'm just watching. What else do I gotta do?
Well, exactly. Actually, you mentioned like when you're on the bench. So, is there anything that you have to truly do on the bench? Like, do you have to watch for certain things, or do you just watch the game?
Well, when I got to the Nationals, I last year I watched them on TV a lot, like Rogers TV, and I always saw I think it was Yuka Shawter. He had a little clipboard, and when Springer was playing or on the bench, they had a little clipboard. I'm like, what the hell is that? Because I've never seen it before. Because every other team I've been on, it's either you run the door if you want to, you don't have to. But when I got there, like you had to keep track of shots, like where they were, face offs, who took them, this and that, and like I was kind of just like mind blown, like seriously, I've never had to do this before, and I'm like, why do I have to do this? Like, and they're like, well, it's just like for after the games, keep stats. And then I was talking to my goalie coach, like, yeah, I think it's just so that they can keep you busy, so you're not wandering off in case you get thrown in. Because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, what are these stats even like for? Like, I don't even think they even use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know for Chatham, they usually the goalies they're just standing there to open up the door for the guys, and um, yeah, yeah, I think that's really what they do, it actually makes me really nervous because I've seen in like past years where the goalies they'll have like the one guy will have like a blocker or he'll have
Yeah.
his blocker on, but he won't have his tapper on his hand, and he just has his hand just loose. And I've seen where he's like a couple of the guys have almost got their hand crushed just when the guys hitting the boards. And I'm
Yeah.
like, geez, like all it takes is one puck in that hand, and they call you in while you're not catching anything. So
I know exactly. And like when you're doing the stats, like with a clipboard, like you can't really have any gloves on either. So if a puck comes over your way, you're either ducking or jumping up so it hits you in the chest protector, not in the hands, which I never had that happen to me before, but I've heard stories of other guys having to do it and they've almost been clipped in the head and stuff. And it's like, yeah, no, thank you.
yeah, yeah. But did you hear about the NHL comeback that they're having this summer?
Yeah, is it? I don't know if they've come out with like a time yet, but like I saw their playoff bracket, and like I think bottom, like it's 24 team playoff bracket, and the bottom four teams that's like a series, and then the top four teams, I believe they play a round robin to see who like the win, which like whoever comes out on top of the top four teams gets like the worst team, or I think it's the worst team of the like other 10 teams. Like it seems so confusing to me, but
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm a Toronto fan, so I'm kind of glad that we're not going to play Boston
Yeah,
again.
I was gonna say.
It's the same old story the last couple of years, and it's just I think that Toronto fans are kind of getting tired of it, and it just seems like no matter what we do, it's game 7 something happens, and like I mean a couple years ago it was Gardner's fault, and then last year Freddie let in a couple stinkers, and and now it's I'm just glad we're not playing them again, especially now that they're like the team's just rocking.
Yeah.
So I like our chances against the Blue Jackets. So
Yeah, like
I mean,
Boston's kind of like their kryptonite per se.
exactly. They get thrown in with them, and they're looking around like nothing. Like what's going on? Like team, if someone from Boston hits one of their players, they just keep playing like, oh, I don't know what happened. But you see Boston, one of their guys gets hit, and it's like you better look out. You got 4 or 5 killers on the team that are gonna
Yeah.
get you.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, we're talking about that. What's your favorite hockey team?
I to be honest, when I was growing up, like I was always kind of a Marc-Andre Fleury fan, so my favorite team was always the Penguins. But like once he got traded, or not traded, once he got drafted in the expansion draft to Vegas, I wouldn't say my favorite team's Vegas, but if they're playing anyone else, like I'd have to say Vegas. Like people like try to say I'm a bandwagoner. It's like I'm not really a bandwagoner. I'm just like a Fleury fan. But I wouldn't say I have like a favorite team necessarily. I'd say the Golden Knights are probably like my like I want them to win, but at the same time, like if they don't, like I just want Fleury to do well. To be honest, like I'm more or less a hockey fan than like a one team type of fan.
Right on. Well, I mean, you can't deny that those jerseys are so sharp.
Yeah, they need
Like,
to. I've seen so many designs on like Instagram of like a third jersey design, and it's so cool. Like I'm waiting for that to happen.
yeah. Well, I kind of like what I'm trying to say Boston, Buffalo, their third jersey that they came out with this
Yeah,
season, and it's pretty sharp too. But then I've seen other third jerseys that teams have had, and I don't get it.
yeah,
Um,
I know what you mean.
like Vancouver, I can kind of understand what they did with their third jersey. They used their vintage logo, which I don't mind that, but it's kind of I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah, I find that's more like a vintage jersey than like a third jersey type of thing. Like, and like
Yeah,
I find one of the nicest ones, or like kind of one of the ones I really like, is the Phoenix or like the Arizona Coyotes Kachina
yeah.
jersey that they brought back. I think those are pretty snazzy.
Well, it's crazy. I actually have one. It's my dad's, and he actually bought it when they had that jersey. So it's kind of cool that we still have it from like 20 years ago. It's nuts, and it
Yeah,
looks
that's
like
pretty
it's brand
cool.
new because my dad never really wore it. So, yeah, but yeah. Do you have any like funny moments from the season? Anything that happened with the team?
um, I'm I wouldn't say I'd say my funniest moment was probably every time like I'd be on the bench, our mascot Lou, he'd always kind of like make his rounds around the arena, and if you watch the broadcast, he's always kind of bugging Springer there. And so I find every game I was on the bench, he'd come over and either sit beside me, like try to have a conversation with me, or like he'd be giving me popcorn and stuff like that. So I find just like interacting with him during the game was probably the funniest thing. And then our trainer, Joe Gower, he's kind of like he looks like a big mean guy, but deep down he's really a softie. And he'd always be yelling at him, trying to tell him to get away because they're supposed to pay attention to the game. Where I'd be distracted by him.
Oh, okay, that's all right. But I just wanted to say that we're just kind of coming up on time here, so I just want to thank you for taking your time to sit down and chat with me about your junior hockey career, and hopefully we'll see more of you.
Yeah,
And I wish nothing but the best luck to you, wherever you're playing, and you stay safe, and you and your family stay safe and healthy, and we'll talk soon, man.
thank you. I appreciate you having me come on. I saw Wally kind of shared something about it like earlier on the week, and I was kind of looking. I was like, It's kind of interesting. Like I followed you, and next thing you know, you messaged me going or asking for an interview, and I'm like, hey, I don't got anything better to do in this quarantine, so might as well talk to you.
Yeah, well, it worked out for both of us. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, nice talking to you. Hopefully, we can get
you
in
as
touch
well.
soon.
Yes, yeah, for absolutely.